We were spoiled with an incredible weekend of Championship action, weren't we? Just 2 games in, and there's already alarm bells ringing at some clubs. Others have started a lot better than many expected. Sheffield United, not one of those clubs, because Rubén Sellés' rocky start continued. They lost 1-0 away at Swansea. 3 reviews for the Swans. YJB says on the up. Raymond says Galbraith Burgess signings. FML says a beautiful day for Sheffield United. We had a fair few, but most of them involved fecal matter, so you can kind of get the gist of what they were going with there. Back-to-back losses in the league for the Blades, plus a loss in the League Cup in midweek. A far from ideal start for Mr. Rubén Sellés, Justin.
Yeah, it's been a bumpy one, a rough one. We always knew it was going to be a little bit difficult because of the transition from you, Chris Wilder, to someone who's, not Chris Wilder. I think the easiest way of putting that is, Rubén Sellés isn't a local lad who's, grew up watching Sheffield United and he's not taken him to the Premier League before. It's always going to be difficult replacing that sort of manager, especially one who's off the back of a record-breaking points tally, as Chris Wilder was last season. But what you can do in that space of time that you're trying to sort of build a bridge between supporters is get results and good performances, and ultimately that's not been the case because this was a game for Sheffield United where they really underwhelmed. You can make an excuse or maybe sort of justify things a little bit last weekend because they created a few chances, but they were very, very blunt here against Swansea.
Yeah, very blunt indeed. They were better at the back in this one, but let's be honest, that was a pretty low bar after that Bristol City game, wasn't it? And you're right, going forwards, they were so poor. A team with that much talent, and they didn't manage a single shot on target against, with all due respect, a pretty average Swansea side. Last season, Sheffield United had just 1 game all season where they didn't manage a shot on target, and that was away at Leeds. Now Rubén Sellés has managed it after just 2 games. Now, there weren't any on-pitch team talks this time around after the game, but Sellés did admit this performance wasn't good enough from his team, and you've got to say this has been the nightmare start. He needed a good start because Sheffield United fans weren't happy with Chris Wilder's sacking, and what we've had so far is the exact opposite, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at this game and the starting 11, when you've got a 11 boasting of Gus Harmer, Tyrese Campbell, Lou, Barry, Callum O'Hare, and you don't manage a single shot on target, it simply isn't good enough. Like I said, the Bristol City game didn't really reflect the scoreline, but you are going away to Swansea side who, coined for a mid-table compared to Sheffield United side who were pushing for promotion this season, and they didn't create anything, didn't do anything. They had more touches in the box than Swansea and still didn't manage anything, and that bluntness is quite frightening. And then there's a lack of reaction from last week's telling off on the pitch. There's still no sparking additions in the squad either. It's just a bit of a mess that's really snowballed quickly in 2 weeks, and I didn't foresee this coming at all. But I'm sure a lot of Sheffield United fans probably did, especially after Chris Wilder was sacked.
Yeah, well, when you give a team talk on the pitch like that, it's to try and get some sort of reaction from your players, isn't it? And if this is the reaction, then it's clearly not gone very well and backfired quite dramatically, unfortunately, because it's not a good look when you're having to do that after 1 game, and this is not a great follow-up either. I mean, it is just 2 games. We shouldn't lose our heads. But Sheffield United fans, you should try telling that to them because they are not happy based off what I'm seeing online. I think Rubén Sellés is a good manager. We've always said we rated him, particularly after he lost his job at Hull, which he didn't deserve to. And he seems a far better fit for the more data-led approach that the owners want to go with. But even Sellés doesn't seem a big fan of that right now. He was asked about recruitment this past week and said, our process has not been good enough. I think that's obvious. At the beginning of the market, we talked about reinforcement with 3 players. Now it's 5 players. We've not been able to bring anyone else for different circumstances. I will accept my part of it, but everyone must accept blame. So Rubén Sellés not happy with recruitment, Justin. Maybe they need to turn the AI off and on again.
There we go. Yeah, ring IT support. That'll get it sorted. It's just messy. It's just really messy. I know you've said that they're a squad pack full of talented players, but I was looking at it in a little bit more detail. This 11 here, Mike Cooper aside, the goalkeeper, I think they've got 2 players who I think are in a top 3 in their position in the league. Then you've got Tyrese Campbell, who I rate highly, who's linked with a move away. I think the rest of squad players / starters for sort of a team battling around the playoffs. Every summer is a chance to improve your squad, and Sheffield United haven't done that. It's got worse, which is unforgivable, by the way. And then you sack a manager who cannot, has got a track record of getting the best out of what he's being dealt with, compared to Rubén Sellés, who he's coming into a new squad. He needs a little bit more uplift in terms of recruitment. He's not got that. It's just been. I feel for Rubén Sellés. You can criticise him because clearly the players aren't responding to his methods, but also he's dealt a very bad hand by a very bad transfer strategy.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything there, Justin. I think Sheffield United fans aren't happy, but I can tell you one Sheffield United fan who may be somewhat happy about what's going on, and that's Chris Wilder, because his stock will have ever so subtly risen ever since his departure from Sheffield United, because, stuff like this makes you think, oh, well, why didn't we just keep him in the first place? I imagine that's what a lot of Sheffield United fans are thinking at this moment in time. And I understand wanting to be data-led with your approach when it comes to your manager, but that doesn't necessarily factor in things like man management, which Wilder was very good at. Not saying Sayers isn't, but the start has not gone well at all, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the plug on this a lot earlier than expected if things don't improve soon, because they need to improve soon, don't they? Swansea's first league win of the season. Justin, what did you make of them in this one?
I think it was a difficult game to pull a lot of conclusions from. I think Swansea controlled the game, but then again, Sheffield United didn't really offer a hell of a lot either. So, as I say, it's hard to pull those conclusions out of it because, Swansea didn't need to be in top gear to win this. Ronaldo had the decisive moment. Malik Yakuwa looked good in and out of possession for Swansea, as did Ethan Galbraith and Giancarlo Franco, both very impressive. But as I say, I don't think we learned an awful lot. It was a good win against a poor team. They controlled it at times, Swansea. Didn't create a hell of a lot in and out of possession, but they did get behind a couple of times. But as I say, I think it's more damning that Sheffield United didn't do a hell of a lot in this game. Swansea didn't have to do a hell of a lot in this game to win it. I think that's the best conclusion you can come out with it with.
Yeah, well, they should be happy because they defended well, restricting Sheffield United to no shots on target. How much of that was down to Sheffield United just being bad, I don't know. But that'll be pleasing for Alan Sheehan, and he just needed to get that first win on the board as soon as, didn't he? We've mentioned previously how caretaker managers can often do well, and then things go wrong when they get the permanent gig. The first win was always going to be massive for him with that in mind. I think they need more additions if they want to truly trouble the playoff picture, particularly in attack. But first win in the bag against a side who finished third last season. Can't complain at all from a Swans perspective, can you? So things not going great for the red half of Sheffield. It's still nowhere near as bad as what's going on in the blue half. Sheffield Wednesday had their first match at Hillsborough since the club went into meltdown. They lost 3-0 to Stoke. 3-word reviews for Wednesday. Matt says, to be expected. Lewis says, Dapon Chansiri's fault. Alex says, Chansiri out now. Xionyort says, get Chansiri out. For Stoke, Joe says, league toppers Potters. Kieran says, rocking Robin Ball. And the rest were mostly just Stoke fans abusing me again, which is fair. There were protests before and during this game. We'll get onto that shortly. But 4 players under the age of 21 in the starting 11 for Sheffield Wednesday. The bench had 6 academy players, only one of whom had ever played a Football League game prior to this. That squad pretty much sums up the mess that Sheffield Wednesday are in, Justin.
It's very light. I know I keep comparing them to Derby and Reading, but they're the 2 very recent examples we've had at championship level. But their situations were bad, but both clubs were still able to recruit players over the summer. Wednesday haven't been able to do that. So the situation, a hard one, is becoming an increasingly steeper hill to climb. I think what is worse with this is with both Reading and Derby, their academies were in much better states than Sheffield Wednesday's. Sheffield Wednesday has been underfunded and ultimately neglected under Chansiri's eyes, if you like, as the infrastructure. And I think that quality of play probably isn't going to come through as we saw in both Reading and Derby. Just to add a little bit in there. But yeah, we have no idea what the level of progress is on anything. We're only hearing reports. So yeah, there's nothing remotely close to what's going to happen next with Sheffield Wednesday. But with the squad, is it going to get better? It's really hard to foresee that.
Yeah, well, the squad's threadbare, but in fairness to them, the scoreline was probably harsh in this game. Victor Johansson had to make 3 big saves in the second half, and in the circumstances, Wednesday gave a really good account of themselves. Barry Bannon nearly scored an overhead kick. No, you didn't mishear me there. Barry Bannon nearly scored an overhead kick. The scenes if that went in. But, yeah, overall, the actual football is a bit of a sideshow to everything else going on at the club, really, isn't it? However, there was this sort of magical moment after the game where the Wednesday supporters gave the players a loud round of applause because despite everything that's going on, them losing 3-0, they fully recognise this isn't on them. They appreciate them still giving their all despite things like, not getting paid, Justin. They're still fully respecting the players who are sticking around and fighting for the club because a lot of them didn't have to, but they're still doing it.
Well, the fans know it. They appreciate the efforts. As you say, as basic, well, as easy it is to say that there's risk of these players not getting paid. There's no reason for them to be there other than they want to stick around for the good of the club. They see the unity. They appreciate that side of it. And that is, that's massive. But, the fans will relate to that. And it's ultimately why we all love football. We play because we love football. We watch it because we love football. And I think the players sticking around probably delves into that emotive side of it that we don't see very often. All we hear about in the Premier League is how much are Chelsea spending. United are signing another striker for £65 million. Whereas, this is as close to, I guess, as harsh as it sounds, as close to non-league as you will get in a professional setting because non-league would probably run better than Wednesday at the moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, anything's better run than Wednesday are at the moment, really, isn't it? Speaking of which, Wednesday fans protested during the game by whistling for the first 5 minutes. If you watch the game back, the PA is actually urging fans to stop whistling as Stoke go 1-0 up, which was unfortunate. Then before the game, there was a march through Hillsborough Park, including a mock funeral procession where Wednesday fans were carrying a casket. As usual, opposition fans online taking the piss, Justin, but it's getting people talking, and therefore I look at something like this and it's doing its job, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been quite impressed with the protest so far. It's been a very well-oiled unit in terms of organisation. I've also seen a lot of fans boycotting the concourse, as has been discussed throughout the summer. So essentially not trying to line Chansiri's pockets, and of course it's not going to be universal throughout the ground, but there's a real purpose here, and that's what matters. It
was nearly an enforced boycott in one of the stands, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's that growing sense of unity, that growing sense of everyone's getting everyone's on the same wavelength, and everyone wants the same thing. Obviously, with the future of the football club. But as long as these things keep happening and these things keep being said, then the conversation should keep rolling, and that's a very important thing. Because what I'm seeing now is there's a lot of news outlets in Thailand picking up the story, which ultimately should put a little bit more pressure on Chansiri. You can't just get out of the country and essentially avoid the news altogether. It's now, filtering into his home life, if you like.
Yeah. I think that's an important point, Justin, because, it doesn't mean much necessarily to us over here what's in the news in Thailand, but it may put some pressure on him. I think anything that puts the spotlight on what's going on at Wednesday is doing its job. And to be frank, we've seen a million marches from fans over the years who are unhappy about how their club is being run. If you do something different, then it stands out, catches the eye of your neutral football supporter when it's briefly flicking up on Sky Sports News or whatever. So I applaud what's going on, and the Wednesday fans need to keep doing things like this because, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. Speaking of which, we've been saying in the past week, Justin, how it looked like Wednesday could finally be bringing in some players after the 2 embargoes were lifted. Various players have been linked with free transfers and loan deals. Well, now it's being widely reported that they won't be allowed to sign unless the owner, Depon Chansiri, can satisfy the EFL that wages can be paid. And I know that'll be frustrating for all associated with Sheffield Wednesday, Justin, but you can't blame the EFL for doing this.
No, it's obviously the right decision. It's understandable. Ultimately, if Wednesday or Chansiri can't afford the current squad, he can't add to it. You can't make that worse. So can I see Chansiri satisfying anyone right now? Absolutely not. And I mean that in every sense of the word.
Careful. Say no more on that. But yeah, you are right with the first bit anyway, because the EFL are trying to do all they can within their remit of forcing Chansiri's hand. And as horrible as it may sound, Chansiri should lower his asking price for Wednesday if they're rooted to the bottom of the table and nailed on for relegation. It doesn't sound like he is, but also if Wednesday are starting to put a competitive side together, he may very well look at it and go, well, I can stick to my original asking price now because they're doing well again. I'm trying to get into the mind of Chansiri, which is like being in a box of frogs. So it's a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, probably literally.
But it's what you've got to try and do in this scenario. Ultimately, whatever happens, it sounds as if Chansiri will be forced to sell Sheffield Wednesday when the independent football regulator comes in, which is hopefully going to be around November time. But the EFL are trying to make him sell before then because that's what's best for the club. It's not going to be pleasant in the short term, but it's in Sheffield Wednesday's best interests in the long term, the quicker they get out of the hands of that toss pot. Let's go on to Stoke, Justin. Anything to say on their front? It's a bit of a weird one, really, isn't it? Because I know Stoke fans are gagging for me to say something positive about them, but it's quite hard to when they're playing against what is the equivalent of the championship equivalent of a Sunday League side in dire need of ringers. Do you know what I mean?
I don't. I think it's quite easy to be complimentary of them because I thought they were brilliant against Derby last weekend, and I thought they were good here. They did the job that they needed to do. Sheffield Wednesday are always going to lay glove on anyone. It's a championship. Doesn't matter how stocked your squad is. It's a very even playing field at times, and that's why ultimately Stoke have got a very good goalkeeper in Victor Janssen, is to keep those chances out. And like I said, he made a couple of good chances, but Stoke were more than deserving of the 3 points. It's hard to take too many conclusions away because of the opposition, but I think Stoke coped with the pressure that Wednesday put on them in a better way than we've seen in previous years. And the management of the game was a positive as well. I think every player earned the win, from Janssen in goal to Mubamba up front, Mubama, to this from last week. I thought Solber Thomas was excellent on the left again. Yeah, Stoke beat what was in front of him. That's all you can ask of him.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Let's go to the meeting between the two favourites for promotion from the Championship this season, Ipswich and Southampton. They played out a 1-1 draw this Sunday lunchtime. 3 reviews for Ipswich. Adam says, much better performance. Tom says, much, much better. For Southampton, Jordan says, J. Bloody Robinson. Yeah, as far as 1-1 draws go, this was an entertaining one, I thought, Justin.
Think so. Yeah, I think so. We saw a lot of endeavour with quality, as you would in the Premier League, no less. But I was still left wanting a little bit more from both sides, really. I thought Ipswich looked good in transition at times. I thought Southampton looked a bit pedestrian at times, but still fairly solid. Maybe the same could be said for both sides, actually. But this was a must not lose, I think, and neither side lost. So there's the positive. But 1-1 draws go. Midday kickoff on a Sunday. It was a decent game, but yeah, still left wanting a little bit more.
Yeah, the game as a spectacle from a neutral perspective was definitely helped by some shaky defending from both sides, especially Southampton. Bloody hell, in and out of possession, they made a lot of mistakes. I think Taylor Harwood-Bellis had one of the worst games I've ever seen him have at championship level. I remain unconvinced by Jack Stevens. I'm not sure Ipswich can claim to have been much better at the back, but yeah, it was. They were both a bit shaky, to say the very least. In the first 15-20 minutes, I thought Ipswich were going to cruise it because they looked so much better than Southampton, but they really grew into the game after that. I thought Jay Robinson was tremendous. Again, he looks a real talent at just 18. It was very end-to-end in the final 20 minutes or so, but neither could find the breakthrough, and I don't think either looked close to really coming close to finding the breakthrough, really. I think it's definitely a better point for Southampton than it was Ipswich, because they'll probably look at it and say we could have won. Kieran McKenna admitted after the game that they're not quite there yet, and you could, as you were saying, Justin, you could sort of see that in this game, couldn't you? They were just missing that certain something.
It was just it's really hard to put your finger on it. There's a little bit of cohesiveness lacking in their forward transitions. I think them, at times when they were bursting forwards in their previous season in the Championship, a couple of years ago when they won promotion, they were seamless, they were exciting, they were brilliant. Last couple of games I've been a bit, I've got off my seat a little bit, and then I've just sat back down because I've been just disappointed with what happened. But I do agree. The first 20 minutes, I thought Ipswich were great, especially when they got the first goal. I thought, okay, right, Southampton look a little bit shaky here. Ipswich can go for them, but it did, like I said, a lack of cohesiveness. I think going forward just didn't really materialise in anything properly exciting. And ultimately, the Southampton's equaliser came from Jacob Greaves fucking up. I think that's the best way to describe it. Dribbling out, and then he's out of position, and then the defending's pedestrian. So yeah, there's positives to take away, but there's also a couple of negatives as well. It's just one of them games.
Yeah, I think we have got to keep in mind this was Ipswich have had, in my view, the hardest opening 2 games possible. That has got to be kept in mind here. So 2 points, avoiding defeats. They'll be pretty content with that, I imagine, especially since they're still finalising their squad. Those games are out the way now, so they can properly start building and being the promotion contender that they expect themselves to be this coming season. Of course, they've lost Amari Hutchinson this week. He's gone to Nottingham Forest for around 38 million. That means they've built up a war chest of £78 million now from Hutchinson, Nathan Broadhead and Liam Delap, which isn't bad, is it? And if reports are anything to go by, it sounds as if they want to spend an awful lot of it before the transfer window closes. They're not getting Spanish striker Ivan Azon anymore. That deal appears to have fallen through for some reason. Reports in Scandinavia have linked them with a £17 million move for Norwegian attacker, bear with me on the pronunciation here, Sindre Waller Eggerli. Don't know much about him, but £17 million ain't cheap. And the Daily Mail say they want another midfielder and are looking at the likes of Lewis Miley, Lewis Cook and Philip Billing. Bloody hell. So whatever that something is that Kieran McKenna was referring to earlier, that Ipswich are missing, it sounds like they're pretty keen to go and get that special something, Justin.
Yeah, well, they're well stuck in the final third, aren't they? But obviously, looking at a Lewis Cook or a Philip Billing,
It could have fooled me with the past 2 games.
True. It will click eventually, hopefully. With Lewis Cook and Philip Billing, there's 2 players there with an abundance of championship experience, so that transition's a little bit easier. But also they've got top flight experience as well, which again is absolutely massive. The example I would give is Leeds going out and getting the likes of Joe Rothwell, re-signing Joe Roden, Jayden Bogle came in. These are top quality players, but also they've all got depth of experience in the Championship as well as in the top flight. And they added a little bit of character. And I'm not criticising Ipswich's approach to the transfer window, but with the likes of Sam Morsey, Massimo Luongo, Christian Burgess, Nathan Broadhead all leaving, there's a departure of quality but also character, and that's what you've got to replace. And I think the links with the likes of Lewis Cook and Philip Billing, they had quality, but they also had that little bit of character that I think is missing in this Ipswich team. Personality, I think. It's lacking the personality we saw a couple of years ago.
Maybe.
Premier League's bored it to death.
I don't know about that, but look, Lewis Miley and Lewis Cook in the Championship would just be ridiculous. That would be some statement move if they were to get either of them in. But it sounds like they want to get in another attacker, another striker. We've got to keep in mind, Chuba Akpom's still got to come into the team as well. So, yeah, it's early days still, isn't it? And they wouldn't have thanked the fixture scheduler for giving them Birmingham and Southampton in their first 2 games. But now they've got past that, they can hopefully start gelling a team together who will go on to win automatic promotion. You'd have thought, considering the amount of talent they've got at their disposal and the expectations of everyone heading into this season. But we'll wait and see on that front anyway. What have you made of Southampton over these first 2 games, Justin?
It's weird. I've been underwhelmed. It's a bit like running a bath. Not quite getting a temperature split right with the taps, and the water is lukewarm. You want it hot, obviously. You put the hot water on, you come back in 5 minutes. That's the best way I can describe Southampton at the moment, because I feel like I'm going to get what I want. I'm just not seeing it right now. Hang on.
So are Southampton too hot or too cold a bath?
They're lukewarm, so I guess too cold. Like, you want to get into a hot bath after a grubby day. You've played football. You want to get into a hot bath, relax. And as I say, you just tut and you've got to come back in 5 minutes because you need to put the hot tap on properly and see how it goes. It's going to get there eventually. I'm just not seeing it at the minute. I'm not getting the instant gratification I want. It's been fine. They got 4 points on the board without actually playing particularly well, and Jay Robinson looks brilliant. So there are positives. I've just been underwhelmed.
Yeah, well, I kind of get what you were saying in your stereotypical Justin way of, interesting way of describing it. But I mean, on the face of it, 4 points is a great return from these first two games. Performance-wise, you're right. It could be a lot better, especially at the back. They have looked very ropey at the back in both games, but we are just 2 games into the Will Still era, and these things are going to take time. It's not really a surprise if there is, quotation marks, a bit of a slow start. The huge positive, as you say, has been Jay Robinson, who looks an unbelievable player. Everything else probably needs a bit of tweaking, but we don't know who's going to be there and who will be there at the end of the window. Matias Fernandez started this one, which was a bit of a surprise when the lineups were announced. It was more of a surprise afterwards because he didn't do much. I completely forgot he was in the starting 11 for this game. Tyler Dibling came off the bench. 2 players there whose futures seem a bit touch and go, but I don't think that's helped Will Still in his preparation for the new season. We may be waiting until after the window closes to see Southampton in full flow. I think that's fair to say. Let's have a look at how we did in the preview show from Friday, Justin. It was a bad weekend for me. Millwall and Derby were my banker and outsider picks, both of which we'll talk about shortly. I really need to stop picking Derby. Justin's outsider came in again, though. West Brom to beat Wrexham. No luck with his banker of Leicester to beat Preston. 2 outsiders, 0 bankers. Interesting start to the season for you, Justin.
It's how I won last year, wasn't it? I was just getting outsiders a fair bit. Bankers never really came in for me. Just racking up the points with the old big claims. Can't say it's any skill involved. I just go off vibes, all vibes.
Yeah, well, sometimes vibes goes a long way, Justin. It does mean Justin is 4-1 up for the season now. How am I 3 points down already? For God's sake. So frustrating. Anyway, let's have a quick break, Justin. After that, we'll talk about wins for Birmingham City and Preston North End. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're having a recap of all the action from across game week 2 of the Championship season. But before we get on to some more of the action from across the weekend, we've had a bit of a listener correspondence, Justin, on the subject of strange injuries. This comes after Preston striker Daniel Jebison was ruled out for a month after apparently tripping over something during a PT session or something like that. It was something to do with PTs. This one is insane from Josh. This is one of the most insane emails we've ever had. In 2020, at 2 a.m, I was on my phone and a moth was flying around. It eventually went away, and then I heard it, but it was a bit more louder than before. That's because it flew down my ear.
Shit.
Oh, my God. It's horrendous. I tapped on my parents' door and had to go into A&E so they could remove the moth. The way they did it was by pouring olive oil down my ear to drown it, then use some sort of scissors to pull it out. While I was waiting to be seen, it was like a fan was down my ear for about an hour straight. Cheers, Josh. Up the Super Frank. I don't like that, Justin.
I'm no surgeon, but could you not just put a light at the end of your ear just to get this moth out?
It took me a while to process what you're
doing.
You're
laughing. I'm genuinely serious.
I guess the moth couldn't expand its wings enough to get out of Josh's ear hole.
Yes,
that's the problem.
It's a sticky place as well in Josh's ear. Because of it.
I don't know. I don't know if it is or not. It definitely was after the bloody olive oil was down there. Ugh. Yeah, that one made me cringe when I read it earlier. Now I'm cringing all over again. We had Martin Patrinson Trevor get in touch. He said, when I was younger, I somehow managed to rip the tip of my thumb off playing baseball. Still don't know how it happened. He's also attached a picture, which was utterly grim, but thank you, Trevor, for getting in touch with that. I know someone who lost a finger putting up goal nets.
Yeah, I've got a story about a hand thing as well, which is disgusting.
Where's your hand thing been?
Yeah, no. So, used to play Sunday League. This is my brother-in-law. He climbed over a fence and to retrieve a ball. And you know the sharp fences you get at schools and what have you?
Yes.
He caught his hand on it and literally cut it from his wrist to the top of his middle finger. And it was bad. And I was the first aid representative. I was out of my depth.
He's definitely in trouble then.
I was out of my depth, yeah. Thankfully, he didn't lose any digits, but he's lost function of one of his fingers completely.
Oh dear. Yeah, the bloke I know who lost his finger. I think, on goals, they used to have those little hooks. I think it was his ring finger, and I think the ring got caught on that and literally just...
That can happen. I can see that.
Gone. And it's never grown back since, but it's a good
It's never
conversation
grown back
starter.
since, of course it hasn't.
Well, of course not. I was going to say, I was just making sure we were all on the same page there. But yeah, it's a good conversation starter when everyone goes, what the hell's happened to your finger? I've got a bit of a bizarre injury now, actually, Justin. I was playing five-a-side yesterday. Dive for a penalty. I was never going to get it, but I thought it would be funny. And basically managed to take all the skin off one of my shins. It was not worth it for something that I just did for a few laughs.
It's what you get for cheating.
Yeah. It's proof of me. You're absolutely right. It's a lesson for us all there. Don't cheat, otherwise you'll be very uncomfortable when trying to sleep with a duvet on top of your skinless shin the day after. But if you have any bizarre injuries, let us know. secondtierpod@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter or Instagram. Let's talk about the club who are missing Daniel Jebison now. Preston North End, an 85th minute winner for Militon Osmajic, saw them beat Leicester City 2-1. 3 reviews for Preston. Long-suffering White says, Osmajic, simply divine. PNE chatter says, very bloody sexy. Deep Del Talk says, work rate, pace, pressing. Corinthian Casual says, don't underestimate us. For Leicester, footy and food says Leicester are broken. Bempo says, half-arsed players. Madders Magic says, shite. Yeah, what a win for Paul Heckingboomer, Justin.
I tell you what, it was a massive win, but there's nothing boomer, nothing more boomer you can say than the Alfie Devine goal. The fact that it was 2 passes from back to front for the first one from Preston, of course. It was route 2 this time. It was route 1 last week. It was beautiful, but yeah, 2 passes from back to front was just that's as boomer as you get. But fair play. Yeah, Preston were brilliant. They were really good here. I think a draw would have been a terrible result for Preston because they were much, much better than Leicester throughout the game. They created abundance of chances. They were really, really good. And Leicester getting back into the game was undeserved. Preston were fantastic. Really, really, really good.
Yeah, I feel like you're doing a bit of a disservice to the Alfie Devine goal because how he
squeezed
lovely
goal.
It in
Sorry,
it
was a beautiful goal.
Yeah, I was going to say the finish was unbelievable. How he squeezed it in from there, I have no idea. But I was the same as you. I was impressed with Preston, considering how shocking they were at the end of last season. It's been a long time since I've said I've been impressed by Preston. But particularly in transition, they were excellent. Could have scored more. Militon Osmajic could have had a hat-trick alone. So, yeah, very good from them. And we've been saying Paul Heckingbottom needed a good start because he was probably the manager starting the season under the most pressure. Results and performances like this will help no end, though.
Yeah, it will. I feel like there has been a mentality shift within the squad, and that's something that Paul Heckingbottom has spoken about. What they've done in the last 2 games, for example, is nullify both their teams, both that have got an abundance of attacking talent in the final third. So Heckingbottom deserves credit for that. But also their approach against Leicester as well also signifies a bit of a mentality shift because rather than settle for the point, they were brave in their approach. They went after them and the gears went up. They kept Leicester, their shots essentially were outside the box. It was a game they could have settled for. They didn't. They went for it. And that was an incredibly brave thing to do. And it's a difficult thing to drill into a team who, what was it? How many wins in sort of 15 games at the back end of last season? It was a disaster. So to recover that and get it going again, I think Heckingbottom deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fairness, Preston have been very solid at home under Heckingbottom. Just 3 losses in 23 under him in the league at Deep Dell. And if they keep that up, then that'll go a long way with regards to them staying up this season, won't it? I know we're just 2 games in, Justin, but I'm pretty concerned about Leicester so far. They made very hard work of it at home against a threadbare Sheffield Wednesday team on the opening weekend. And now they've lost to Preston, a side who, as I say, solid at home, but still, there's someone we expect to struggle this season. And Leicester was second best for most of it. Could have easily lost this game by more. And this is a Leicester team with a lot of talent who many have been predicting to go very well this season, despite the threat of a points deduction. Now, I admittedly have not been as hot on them as others. That's mainly because I'm worried about problems further down the line. I thought they may start well, while they still had a lot of the Premier League talent available to them. But I don't think they have at all. I think they've lacked control of games, looked open at the back. When you consider the talent they have, and particularly the quality of the opposition they faced so far, that shouldn't be the case. So I'd go as far to say Leicester have been the team I've been the least impressed by so far. I know it's only 2 games. We shouldn't get carried away. But they have been seriously poor.
It's quite strange. The most red flags I've had out of clubs so far, I mean, it's only 2 games, are Derby and Leicester. Now, another red flag from Leicester's point of view is Abdul Fattawi putting out a stick together message on Instagram. We're 2 games in, and you got players asking for fans to stick together. Like, you won last weekend. This is not the end of the world you lose, but I think the manner in which they lost was disappointing. It was frustrating. Of course they should have sewn up the game against Sheffield Wednesday much quicker than they did last weekend, or much earlier than they did last weekend. But with this performance against Preston, it was nowhere near the level you need to be at if you're trying to sustain the promotion challenge. It's one of those performances you've got to quickly put to bed, because the habits can form early and impact you in 4 or 5 weeks' time. They struggled to cope with Preston getting balls in behind. Defensively, lazily tracking back for the winner. That was Majic. When you literally saw defenders not keeping up with markers. It's really, really poor. These players, they come across as very well paid, very well pampered. And that's how I've seen the last 2 performances. They're yet to get the grit in their teeth. And that's mentality. That's not quality. That's mentality. And that's a hard thing to drill into players.
Yeah, and considering they look set to lose players, James Justin appears to be going to Leeds, various others being linked with moves away. I'm worried about them going forwards, because there doesn't seem to be an awful lot coming the other way, does it? So yeah, a lot of concern with Leicester City after these 2 games, and Marty Cifuentes definitely needs an upturn soon, because he's another one who I think, in a similar vein really to Rubén Sellés, had to have a good start, because I'm not sure Leicester fans were completely sold on that appointment when that was made. So yeah, another one who needs a sharp upturn in results very soon. Championship history was made in this game, though. Jeremy Monga has become the youngest ever goal scorer after finding the back of the net for Leicester in this game. He's beaten Jude Bellingham's record after scoring here at the age of 16 years and 37 days old. Do you want to know what was happening when he was born in July 2009?
I don't, but you're going to say it anyway. You may as well.
I'm going to say it anyway. Michael Jackson had died just days before. Number 1 in the chart was Cascada, Evacuate the Dance Floor, and The Hangover and Up were in the cinema. So, yeah, just a friendly reminder that we are all very mortal. Birmingham City went from being a goal down in the 89th minute to winning. They beat Blackburn 2-1. 3-word review for Birmingham. Snapdown on our Patreon says, away end limbs for Blackburn. Dave on our Patreon says, last minute shambles. Mikey says, deserved a point. Alicia says, heartbreaking and unlucky. Unbelievable scenes here, Justin. Unbelievable scenes. One Birmingham fan enjoyed it so much that he dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah, I've seen 2 fans have dislocated things. Birmingham City fans taking their limbs very serious. But look, you turn a game as quickly as that. Yeah, I think it's one of them. I don't know what tastes sweeter in terms of a last minute winner. A game in which you've been hammered and you nick one at the death. Or a game where you've hammered the opposition and you're not getting your just desserts, and then all of a sudden, 98th minute, you score a winner. Whatever the case, both very sweet feelings. But yeah, it's obviously a reminder how cruel football is to Blackburn. But Birmingham created a ton of chances. They deserve to win the 3 points. They want to get certain things sewn up before, but what a moment for the supporters. If that keeps happening, I'm sure there'll need to be a health warning going out to Birmingham fans if they repeat this.
Yeah, well, the amount of movement in that away end is insane for the winner. If you haven't seen it yet, you have to go and have a watch. It's like a wall of body parts flying around. It's absolutely glorious. I do think Birmingham fans somehow produce the best limbs. I don't know how a fan base manages to do it, but they've got a fair few examples of it over the years, haven't they? Most famously, that Paul Caddis goal. Although there was one Birmingham fan who obviously had one body part flying around, which he didn't want to. And there was another one who also had a body part flying around, which he didn't want to. Did you see the bloke getting his shorts pulled down while celebrating?
I did. It's funny, but I don't like wearing belts. Don't make me wear a belt. I'm scared.
What, you think I'm going to do it to you?
It can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. It's hilarious, but let's not make it a trend.
Yeah, I agree. I love seeing limbs, but I speak for everyone when I say I don't want to keep seeing people's choppers at the football. That's the baseline for me when it comes to football, really. But yeah, the game itself was pretty uneventful for the first 90 minutes. There wasn't a single shot between the 6th minute and half time. And then Blackburn scored early in the second half after some of the most chaotic defending you'll ever see from Birmingham.
That was great. It was a great spell of football, that was. Sorry. It's just head tennis and then a beautiful drive from Todd Cantwell. I feel like we need to mention that. It's great. Yeah.
10 seconds of just pure confusion when it comes to trying to get the ball out of the box. And Birmingham were struggling to find an equaliser. Breaking down Blackburn was proving to be a real problem until a brilliant run by Ethan Laird to get a penalty, and as we say, the rest is history. And so Birmingham get the first championship win of the season, and they will be very encouraged by their start, won't they?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, 4 points from your opening 2 games, which includes getting a draw against Ipswich, a game you arguably should have won, and then a 98th minute winner against Blackburn, a game, again, that could have got away from Birmingham, but it didn't. They come away with 4 points out of 2 games. It's a very good start. And I think what we're seeing in terms of performance as well is they're going to grow into the season because they've got players to come in. That's going to be a factor. But they've got contribution as well. Lyndon Dykes came in and scored the winner, a player who I didn't think was going to have a huge involvement this season. But he's come on. He's got an important 3 points, which come the end of the season could be absolutely massive. Ethan Laird coming on, winning the penalty. Tomorrow Gray's cross, Lyndon Dykes was great. It was all round, very good squad day, if you like. And some very good memories for Birmingham fans as well.
Yeah, but they really should have 3 wins. If it wasn't for a dodgy penalty for Ipswich, then Birmingham will be sitting on the perfect week to kick off their season after beating Sheffield United in the Cup as well. But yeah, I've been very impressed with Birmingham. The goal they conceded against Blackburn was a bit messy, but still ultimately a marvellous strike by Todd Cantwell. Otherwise, they've been solid at the back so far. Going forwards, could be better, but they've got attacking reinforcements to come into the team still, and I think they're definitely going to recruit further in the next fortnight. Overall, Birmingham needed to keep riding that crest of a wave after I've kept saying with their promotion, and so far they've done just that, and it's very exciting to see where that wave could end up taking them. I will also applaud Birmingham's media team for doing a pronunciation video of the players' names. Cannot emphasise this enough. For every media team across the championship, please do this. It makes our lives in particular so much easier. For Blackburn, it's 3 losses from 3 in all competitions to kick off their season, and I get the feeling it's going to be a long one for them, Justin.
Well, what best summary of Blackburn at the moment than the Birmingham winning goal? It came from their own corner. That didn't beat the first man. It's one of the worst things in football, I think that is. And the opposition score from it is horrendous. Then you've got unrest with the squad. Obviously, Lewis Travis is... he didn't play, whether he's refusing or not is another question. I've seen a lot of reports, a lot of fan speculation, but nonetheless, he's not involved. You're missing a captain. It's difficult at the moment for Blackburn, and I think they're one of the teams who need the transfer window to end. Or do they? Because they need to also recruit reinforcements as well. It's such a weird place Blackburn are at the moment, and a difficult one. But I think the best summary of this game is Blackburn conceding from their own corner. Horrendous.
Yeah, well, I'm particularly concerned about the lack of threat they carry going forwards. I'm looking at that team now, and other than Todd Cantwell, I'm struggling to see who's going to change a game for them. It's nothing to lose our heads over because it's 2 losses in the league to 2 teams. Most are expected to be in or around the playoffs this season. But I fear creativity and goals will be a real issue for them in the long term, unless, as you say, they get some business done before the window closes. Millwall 0, Middlesbrough 3. 3 reviews for Middlesbrough. Jack says, sexy like Edwards. Ben says, Edwards sexball. Jam says, Dilks banker busted. Connor says, apologise to Edwards. Yeah. Not a scoreline I expected. Never mind the bloody result, Justin.
Yeah, who's got to apologise to Edwards here? Yeah, it was a fantastic result for Middlesbrough. And I think, in the sense that they score and they take control of the game without needing to control possession. Because, in truth, it was still fairly even after an hour, but Millwall didn't take advantage of their moments enough. But from Borough's perspective, they get that goal and they just hit Millwall on the counter. So yeah, it was a great great day for Middlesbrough, because I think going away to Millwall and getting a win is massive, but going away to Millwall getting a 3-0 win is a bit of a statement. Obviously, that's 2 wins and 2 clean sheets in the league now for Old Borough. Sandwiched between battering at home by League One side, which is just strange, but we can gloss over that and focus on the league, can't we?
Yeah, as someone who had Millwall down as their banker of the weekend, I definitely wasn't expecting this. Yeah. Middlesbrough didn't really offer anything in the first half. I think that's worth pointing out. So at that stage, I was even more confident of Millwall getting the job done. And then second half, Borough really came to life. Considering Hayden Hackney is thought to be leaving the club this summer, he's definitely not lacked commitment. He was unbelievable in this game. Sammy Silvera, traditionally a winger, looked great at wing-back. And defensively as a whole, they stood really firm. Just a great result. Some, including us, were worried about potential hangover for Rob Edwards after his Luton spell. Instead, it looks like he's having a ghost hangover, Justin. You ever had a ghost hangover?
I don't think I have. Or is it just one of those where you drink and you don't get a hangover?
Yeah. Where you have a few drinks the night before and then you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, I actually feel all right. Bit dehydrated, but actually fine. That seems like what Rob Edwards is having here.
You'd hope so. It's a good place to be for him at the moment. As I say, it's 2 wins and 2 clean sheets. That's absolutely massive. But they're also, they're scoring goals away from home, which again is massive. I think with a lot of managers, you need to bed yourself into a season, don't you? You need to bed yourself in quietly and get it done, get results done, go under the radar almost. And I think even despite Middlesbrough, getting 2 wins from 2 in the league, they're still obviously not being fancied. I think I've seen a lot of Borough fans make a joke of like how are we top of the league at the moment? And again, two games in, I know, but it's still funny nonetheless. But with Rob Edwards, there was risk of a hangover, but ultimately 2 wins from 2 doesn't really matter. I will caveat is we need to sort of drill in and be like, we're only 2 games in. Not get carried away. It's a nice start, but let's see how we go.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's amazing looking on my social media and seeing how many people are getting carried away after just 2 games. But I think Middlesbrough getting 6 points from the games that they have done is a really, really good going. So fair play to them. It could get even better for Borough, of course, because Fabrizio Romano is reporting they're set to sign Sverre Nipan on loan from Man City. The 18-year-old Norwegian midfielder only moved to the Etihad in June for £12 million from Rosenborg, and was one of the most highly sought-after youngsters in world football. So a very exciting move for Borough, Justin.
Yeah, he's technically a Football Manager wonder kid as well. So if you're signing those on loan, it's good. Very, very good in my eyes. He's played 70-odd games for Rosenborg as well in Norway, so he's a talent. And obviously from my Football Manager signing days, he's 2-footed, he's creative. So it would be a good acquisition. I'm not sure they need a creative central midfielder. I still think they need someone a bit more robust, but yeah, well stocked in creative department. You can't complain.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't. You are right. I don't know what this means for the future of Hayden Hackney, so that'll be interesting. But it could be a huge get for Borough. Maybe having the same sort of impact as Ben Doak last season, another one who was extremely highly rated when they got him in. So yeah, very excited. I'm very intrigued to see how he gets on there. And there was an 8-goal thriller at Pride Park. Derby County 3, Coventry City 5. 3-word reviews for Coventry. Natalie says, smash the Rams. JP says, mental away day. Trawler Mag says, Frank Lampard masterclass. Alex says, super Frankie Lampard. A lot of Lampard-based ones here. Including one saying Lampard apparently shags us, Justin. So that's news to me and you. Yeah. For Derby, John says absolute defensive disaster class. Dwayne says need players back. Brad says Danny snail pace bat. Yeah, if you told me one of the games from this weekend would have 8 goals in it, I think this genuinely might have been the last one I would have guessed. That's a general rule with any game involving a John Eustace side, but yeah, I was never expecting many goals in this one. Derby County were 3-2 up in the 71st minute and then found themselves 5-3 down by the 79th minute. So yeah, just a mad game in general, Justin.
Yeah, bonkers game. Really bonkers game. I think, yeah, Coventry obviously deserved the win, but the defending from Derby was just very sus, very, very sus. I think that's as I mentioned earlier, red flags with Derby and Leicester. Derby's red flags are defending. I know they've got players out. I know you can lean on that excuse, but ultimately, Derby started with 9 defensive-minded players in this game. They had Carlton Morris and Caden Jackson. Caden Jackson, by the way, is on the defensive side of offensive, shall we say. So, and they still conceded as much as they did. It's a bit frightening. It's not a comfortable place to be. And Coventry, ultimately, they made mincemeat of that. They were great at times attacking. And really got it Derby. And that showed. As I say, some of the defending generally from both sides was just really poor. Yeah. Coventry were the better team. They really,
they should have been really, considering the difference in the 2 starting 11s, and they eventually got the job done. You are absolutely right. Both teams will look at this game and say their defending was appalling at times. Coventry's 4th goal, I will say, was exceptional, though. Lightning quick attack. From Mason Clark in general was unbelievable. With my neutral hat on, it was a lot of fun. With my Derby hat on, it was a very, very frustrating game. Derby conceded 10 goals in their final 13 games of last season. They've now conceded 8 in their first 2 of this campaign. Which, as you say, Justin, not what you expect from a John Eustace side, because defensively they were absolutely all over the place, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. That's the frustrating thing is, like I said, personnel-wise, they had a lot of defensive-minded players on. They still conceded a lot of chances. West Brom in midweek in the Cup conceded a lot of chances. Stoke, they conceded a lot of chances. And they've also dropped 6 points from winning positions. There's a lot of red flags here. And as I say, it doesn't matter what players you got out injured. If you can't put out an 11 who can nullify an opposition, it's concerning for me, and certainly not. It's not what you expect of a John Eustace team. It's not what you expect of his Derby team either. And like I said, I think Coventry they were great at times. They were poor at times. Lampard said himself that it wasn't his favourite game, and you can understand why. But Derby made it easy for them at times, and likewise Coventry made it easy for Derby at times. It was just a game where if you like defending, this was not it.
Yeah, all those defending fans out there will have been absolutely fuming watching this game. Dion Sanderson has had an absolute nightmare start to his Derby County career. Danny Batt, for that matter, hasn't covered himself in much glory either. I know you say we shouldn't focus too much on injuries, but I think you've got to go back to that. Derby have an insane number of players unavailable, considering we're in just the 2nd game of the season. How are there so many players out after just 2 games? It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, it has undeniably been a very underwhelming start. Don't think it's anything to lose your head over just yet, because a lot of the unavailable players are due to be back after the international break. Further additions thought to be on their way as well. But they have to tighten up, because they're 2 games in a row now where they've thrown away a lead and conceded multiple goals in quick succession. So not what you'd expect from, as I say, a John Eustace side. I keep saying that, but very alarming. A few little tidbits on this game, Justin. Most importantly, Ryan Liambe nearly scored. For those who aren't aware, he holds the record for the most appearances by an outfielder in Championship history without ever scoring a goal, a record we are obsessed with. He had a shot about 25 yards out, forced Carl Rushworth into a very good save. I've never had so many messages about a player having a shot before, Justin.
But right now, Mbaye, search engine wise, his name would have sparked as high as it has ever been. Him striking that shot from 30 yards as well, by the way. Incredible. It's a good save from Carl Rushworth, but he's going to have to get closer to the goal if he's going to score. It genuinely also might be the first time I've seen him shoot. Might be his first shot on target. I don't know if he'd have that stat available to us, but I genuinely think that's his first shot on target in his career.
It's the first time he's had a shot since February 2024. So this is sort of like a Halley's Comet event, Ryan Liambe having a shot. Coventry defender Liam Kitching wasn't supposed to play in this game, but he did. His partner went into labour on Friday, but he decided early on Saturday morning to leave the hospital and travel alone to link up with the squad. How about that for commitment, Justin?
To who?
Coventry. not his partner, obviously.
I mean, it was a good job the game was at midday, wasn't it? I'm sure if it was at 3:00, he might have had to have changed his mind. But it's an incredible commitment, and he played a big hand in 2 of the goals as well. So he needed him there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We send our best wishes to Mr. and Mrs. Kitching. We had a message from Matt Good off the back of this game, who said, I've been given some thought as to what the loser of your predictions forfeit should do. How about they do an entire pod on the brilliance of Frank Lampard as a manager? It's not a short pod, all right? Yeah. Wow. I'm sure that's going to go down well. And the final thing from this game, Justin, I was, of course, there for it in full frustration. I went to the toilet at half-time. Who stood next to me at the urinal? None other than Lee Clark, who was there to watch his son Bobby play. Nice little surprise while I was in the loo, Justin.
Yeah, I'm trying to process that information live. Yeah. I didn't realise until this week that Lee Clark was his dad, Bobby Clark's dad.
Oh, okay.
That was my friend reminded me of that. So yeah, that was a nice. I completely forgot he's from Newcastle, to be honest with you. So yeah, it was nice. Did you enjoy it? Was it a good trip?
It was just a bit strange having little Ryan in my hands while Lee Clark was stood next to me, and I did spend a bit too long looking at him because I was like, "Is that Lee Clark?" And I was like, "Hang on a minute, we're in the toilet."
Yeah,
together.
Did you lean forward to get a glance? Did you lean forward to get a glance of him, or were you just stood back a little bit?
I was trying to play it as cool as possible, but I did get distracted while trying to do things. So yeah, that sounds bad now I say it like that. Let's move on, Justin, before I dig this hole any deeper and go to the polls. This is the part of the show where we give listeners 3 questions on Twitter because we want to get their thoughts on everything going on across the Championship. The first question we asked was this: who would you rather have in charge of your team, Rubén Sellés or Chris Wilder?
Recency bias dominates that one. I would like Chris Wilder in charge of my team, but if I'm thinking long term, I want Rubén Sellés.
I agree. If I was in charge of a football club, Rubén Sellés would be more suited to how I would want to run things. I know it's not looking very good right now, but I think in different circumstances, Rubén Sellés is a much more logical appointment than having Chris Wilder. Maybe not necessarily at Sheffield United, but everywhere else, I think so. 72% of people said Chris Wilder, 28% said Rubén Sellés. So yeah, maybe recency bias is creeping in a little bit there. Where do you think Leicester will finish this season, ignoring a points deduction? Top 2, playoffs, top half, bottom half, or lower? In your league table predictions, Justin, you had them 6th, I believe. Has that changed after 2 games? The Preston game and the manner of which they were tracking back, that's a real good tell. Does stress me out a little bit, but I still think there's just too much quality in that team not to get top 6. I'm not sure I agree. 48% of people said playoffs. 40% said top half. 7% said bottom half or lower. Interesting. 5% said top half. That's without a points deduction, by the way. So yeah, interesting poll, that one. And finally, have you noticed more flies around recently than usual? Yes or no?
Yes, I have.
Yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Whenever I open the door to let the dog go to the loo outside, like the whole cast of The Bug's Life come in and decide to invade the house. It's insane how many flies have been around recently, Justin.
Yeah, and of course we've got Josh, who suffered his moth drama injury earlier on in the show. There's a lot of fly-based stuff happening today, but I've had to invest in fly spray, which I've never invested in because I've never needed to. But this year I've had to. I've also, my algorithms are serving up a pressure gun that kills flies. So something's happening. Maybe it's a conspiracy.
I've got a tennis racket which is a fly swatter, an electric fly swatter.
Have you ever touched it yourself?
Not yet.
Do it.
But it may happen at some point. And I feel a bit sick when I'm doing it, but at the same time, it is quite satisfying swatting a fly who's been flying around your head for the past 5 minutes. I didn't actually read out the result of the polls, did I? That would be a good idea. 64% of people said yes, 36% said no. So I'm glad we're not the only ones noticing the big rise in flies around the United Kingdom recently. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. If you're a Patreon subscriber, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about me or Justin on a billboard. A little bit of off-brand Premier League chat. and shower gel. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora time in every single weekend show. Head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. But that's just about time for us here on the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday to talk about all the latest news from across the Champo. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.